date the Akan script.
But the Akan script is after this point.
Exactly.
Right.
Now date the Manding script.
The Monday script.
Yep.
And I'm forgetting.
You're going to be quoting Clyde Ahmad Winters.
I'm forgetting the date. I am forgetting the date, Uncle. I am forgetting the date, but I do know it's pre the Islamic invasion into Africa.
That is highly
into
controversial.
Egypt, right?
That's
So
very,
and
the
for some,
Manding script, that's controversial.
yes, because the rudiments of it, yes,
That's controversial.
Yeah, it may well be, Uncle. But I'm saying that scripts like languages have an evolutionary history.
Talking about the Manding script, for example.
Yes.
Clyde Ahmad Winters is one of the few people who researched it. Now, what he looks at is the Manding script in the Americas.
Yeah.
That's what he looks at. What he says is evidence for the Mandinka having sailed across to the Americas is that there is evidence of Manding script in the Americas. Now, the Manding script that he shows you is almost akin to the Viking runes. Viking runes were a script, but very underdeveloped.
I'm not arguing
it's
that.
Very underdeveloped.
But I'm not arguing that it was developed.
The Viking runes could not perform the function of the Roman script.
Uncle, I would agree with you that the scripts that we would have had would have been underdeveloped. That's not the argument I'm making.
Why were they underdeveloped?
That's not all right, Chancellor Williams, has an answer to that question. Yeah, when societies are undergoing various different kinds of hardship and changes due to migrations, due to climate and these kinds of things, there are certain sciences that fall to the wayside in terms of their development. So it doesn't. The only point I'm making is that the idea that had it not been for the Arabic script,
I asked
West
you
Africa
it was an unfair question. I asked you.
No, it's totally fair. It's totally fair.
No, I'm being mischievous. I am being mischievous.
You're allowed to be. You're allowed to be.
You're not allowed to do this.
You're allowed to be.
What actually the fact is, what I'm looking at is, as kingdoms become empires, they need more communication, and scripts will develop. Because you need now, you're not communicating alone with London, you're communicating with Birmingham.
I'm going to agree with you.
And Manchester.
But Uncle, just in the same way that the coming, the Roman script among African people facilitated the ascendancy of European colonialism in Africa, it's a similar way that the Arabic scripts facilitated the colonialism of Arabs in Africa.
It's a false parallel.
It's not how can it be a false parallel? That is why. And this is.
It's a false parallel.
Please allow me to explain why before you say it. Right? I'll give you two examples.
Are you blocking the camera?
Oh, sorry.
I'll give you two examples very quickly. We deal with Mansa Musa. We can go before him, to Ibn Yassin, and the founding of
that's
the
Mauritania.
And the founding of the Tekrur.
That's
right? But
Ibn Yassin wasn't Tekrur.
No. But he went to Tekrur, and
he was in Mauritania. Tekrur is south of him.
Yes, I know. But what I'm saying is, correct me if I'm wrong. The story of Ibn Yassin, he's not indigenous. Yeah, he comes from Arabia, right?
No.
Where's he from?
Ibn Yassin wasn't it a Lemtuna Berber? He went for Hajj. He went
Uncle,
for Hajj.
This is the story I understand.
No,
right? I understand
he's a
because
Berber.
My understanding of the story is that he comes from Arabia. He tries to convert the Berbers. The Berbers reject it, and he flees. He goes to the Tekrur people.
He's a local who went to Hajj and he came back.
I'll double check it.
He came back like a Salafi.
I'll double check it.
Yeah.
I'll double check it.
Yeah.
Right?
He came back a Salafi.
I'll double check it.
Yeah.
I'll double check it. Come back to my first example. Mansa Musa.
Mansa
Musa goes to Hajj.
Right.
Yes. He takes the gold. What does he come back with?
Waste all the money.
What does he come back with?
He came back with a couple architects and things who helped build mosques and so on. He brought back an architect called Ishaq al-Sahili, the guy who built the mosque of Timbuktu.
They were building mosques before he went. You know what I'm saying? But
but this guy he introduced a Moorish style to the pillar, to the minarets.
Yeah, that's fine.
The block minaret style.
Did he not also bring scholars back with him and imams back with him?
I wouldn't doubt it, but I have to check that too.
Right. Askia Muhammad goes to Hajj.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where does he stop before he gets to Mecca?
Egypt.
Right. Who's in Egypt?
Mamluks.
And they're the recognized caliph, at the time, correct?
No. There
Who's
is
the
no,
recognized caliph
there
at
is
the time?
no caliph at that time. There is no Islamic empire.
So are you saying that? So are you saying?
Egypt was independent of Baghdad? Baghdad was independent of small Spain. There was no empire. There was no central. I think you're trying to aim at us. You're looking for a centralized.
I'm dealing with history.
No,
no.
Hold on. You're looking for a centralized authority like Queen Elizabeth in England or King Louis of France, like a French empire. That did not exist. That's why I think you're making a false parallel.
Let's say that's the case. Let's say that's the case.
Yeah.
Does Askia Muhammad, when he goes to Egypt, seek permission to represent, the caliphate in West Africa or in Africa, and get that permission? And does he not also bring back scholars and imams from Arabia?
Assuming he did, then
right. The point I'm making is that there is a trajectory, in terms and as well. So in all of this context, what's happening is people are seeking for purer religion and increased Islamization,
Good.
And that is happening at the expense of because in order to do that, you have to do so at the expense of the indigenous spiritual and cultural systems, and they did so. So when you talk about trade. One of the reasons why Arabic became such a strong language is because it became the language of trade, because of the power that the Arabs in North Africa had already established based upon their invasion of North Africa.
Yes.
And so that power was the residual effect of that power was felt in West Africa because the people in the
what do you mean by the residual power?
Basically, if the trade in West Africa is done with North Africa and with East Africa. And both of these, on both of these spectrums, you've got people who are Muslims and seeking to spread Islam, to spread their religion.
But I thought you were at the part of the timeline when Islam was still in North Africa. But how could there have been Muslims in West Africa if we're still at the timeline where the Arabs are invading North Africa? That's why we are at the timeline.
Because the Islam in West Africa comes about through a combination of the trade relationships, because again, the gold trade, the salt trade was being done with North Africa, and North Africa at a point becomes Muslim, dominant Muslim. And so those people...
And what were the people of North... Just for the audience, what were the people of North Africa when the Arabs came?
There were various different things. So you've got...
What was the predominant language and language of learning, and what was the predominant religion?
Before Arabic?
Before the Arabs arrived.
So it depends on what period you're talking about. You've got the Tamashek language.
No, on the eve of the Arab invasion.
But this is why it's a difficult one to answer, because I'm saying that because...
Well, we know the language is Roman.
That's what I was going to say. But if you talk about dominant language, the Arabic invasion ended Roman domination.
Yes.
Right?
What I want the people to understand is the notion that the Arabs invaded Africa. In that sense, must be understood. They invaded white Africa.
I'm not arguing that at the point at the moment.
They invaded white Africa, and they supplanted the Latin language, which was an international language of commerce, with Arabic. That's what happened. Arabic filled the vacuum supplanted by Latin.
Are you saying that the Tamashek language was not in operation at the time?
It was not an international language of trade.
I didn't say it was. I didn't say it was international.
The Tamashek language,
Arabic becomes the international language of trade based upon its occupation. Yes, that's all it is. That's the point I'm making.
The point I am making is I am not leaving the audience in any doubt that North Africa was not negroid. It was not black.
I'm not arguing that. At that time, it wasn't.
Arabs arrived.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that.
In fact, to all
there was black people there.
It was like the south. Yeah, of course. Yeah, like there was this. It was like the southern shore of the Mediterranean. Yeah. Basically, in terms of the Roman Empire being called the Mediterranean.
Centuries of invasion. Right.
So
I'm not denying that.
I'm trying to let people understand, because there's a lot of hoteps who think that Africa was pitch black right up to Carthage and Morocco when the Arabs arrived, and the Arabs are pale white. People have this foolish notion.
Uncle.
And that needs to be exploded.
I'm not arguing that. The only point I'm making...
Many of the Arabs are as dark as you.
Yeah. The only point I'm making...
And you?
is that...
Go ahead.
The only point I'm making is that the power of Arabic as a trade language is fundamentally based upon the North Africa becoming Arabic via conquest. And the fact that those people, because the trade routes in gold and salt were done with North Africa, it became it became prestigious, yeah, an elitist class was developed around becoming Muslim because it facilitated that trade experience.
Yes.
Then you have invasion. Then you have
You put the argument back to front. The elites became Muslim. The elites became Muslim.
No, I'm not going to deny that, but I'm
Yeah.
saying, to a degree, I wouldn't deny that.
It became a religion of the aristocracy in Mali.
Yes,
and in
Songhai, yes. But I'm saying
So it's not
under
that-
Ghana, but under Ghana, it wouldn't have been up until a certain point.
It was early days.
That's the point I'm trying to make. But how Ghana? But remember, when they came initially, the Ouagadougou created space. Yeah, gave over half the city, the capital city.
Saleh.
Yeah. To build mosques,
Right.
and these kinds of things,
Yes.
right, and then it was one of the city states within under Ouagadougou, which was Mali, that became predominantly Muslim,
Right.
and basically became, based upon that fact, they had a special relationship with the traders in the north. Yeah, so the relative power of Mali began to increase, in part based upon. Now there were other factors. There was descent within the Ouagadougou Empire over various different things. Just like there was, you know what I'm saying? Just like there was, right? But the point I'm making is that when we're dealing with this, uncle,
Yeah.
and from an African centered perspective now, because it is said that African centered folk believe that Islam was just spread via the sword,
Yeah.
and that would be inaccurate
Yeah.
from the Afrocentric perspective, in the sense of the fact that that's not the full story. It
requires some nuance.
It requires some nuance,
Yeah.
so when
In North Africa, yes, it was. In the
yeah,
north,
right. But I'm saying that when my Muslim brothers and sisters say that it wasn't spread through the sword, it was spread via the trade. That claim,
they're also being fallacious.
that claim
It's fallacious.
requires
That's also nuance.
requires nuance.
Yes.
And because
I quite
trade
agree.
because trade, as we know, can be fair or it can be exploitative. And I'm saying that when we look at the cultural impact of all of these things, what began to happen is prestige. Even though we can make the claim and we can say in all truth that the brothers and sisters who converted to Islam during that time, whereby if we was to compare it to other more fundamentalist standards,
Yes.
we're relatively accommodating. Yeah? We could make that
Yeah.
claim, right? We can make that claim that there were some who were less accommodating.
Yes.
Right? But what we can say is that the adherence towards this religion led to, and what is described by one of the leading Afrocentric definers, Mambo Amamazama. She speaks about the hyper-valorization of European culture and the systematic denigration of African culture. And so in that context, you also have the hyper-valorization of Arabic culture and Islam in that
A
context.
false parallel.
But
Camera,
you
a false parallel.
explain why.
Shall I explain why?
So are you suggesting to me that African culture and spirituality was not systematically denigrated?
Yeah?
Are you saying that African spirituality and culture was not systematically denigrated in the context of Islam developing and spreading?
I'll tell you what I am saying.
Yes.
What I am saying is when Europeans arrived,
Yes.
it constituted a culture shock. Europeans not only arrived
Islam
with
now in England first. Islam first in
Europeans
England.
arrived with guns. They arrived with cannon. They arrived with ships capable of carrying large numbers of people away from their homeland in one fell swoop. Now,
Not immediately, uncle.
when you look, the first Europeans were the Portuguese.
Yes, and they came to
The
trade.
Portuguese have we talked about this before. The Portuguese represent a kind of bridge between the Iberians, the Portuguese and the Spanish in their mentality, represent a kind of bridge between the Arabs, what the Arabs did, and what the French and the Dutch did. It's a kind of bridge between. So let's not discuss the Iberians, they're a little bit Moorish. Don't discuss them right now. Let's look at what happened with these things. When the Muslims arrived with the same weaponry, the same horses, the same armaments as the Africans had. When they arrived, they decided, and first of all, the people who arrived first, the traders, were the Tuareg. Now, people talk about this being an unfair exchange. I heard you mention that. Now, people think salt for gold was an unfair exchange. Now, salt.
No, I wouldn't disagree with that.
Salt at that time.
Yeah, it's really important.
If you are given a whole plate of gold, let me see you try to eat it. salt, without salt in your diet, that salt, in fact, was worth more than gold. Fact. Go and research it.
No, but Uncle, I'm
Go
not
and
disputing.
research
I would
it.
agree with that. I'm
This
affirming that.
feeling that, Africans were giving away all this gold.
But that's not what I said, though. I wasn't
Well,
making
what
that
is the unfair trade you were?
No, I'm saying that all I was saying is that
I thought you were mentioning. Okay.
No, we can't make the claim that just because Islam spread
Trade.
by a trade,
Yeah.
that necessarily means that the trade was
fair.
not it was fair. Just what I'm saying. So there's nuance within that, right? So the point I'm making is that within the trade relationship,
You know, the Africans themselves, half of them didn't know. Mansa Musa didn't actually know where the gold was. It was down in Volta region. They had to go and get that gold.
Yeah.
So he had to have a middleman system to get it. No Arab couldn't say like, we can force you all.
No, that's not the
to
point I'm making.
produce gold.
That's
So
not the
what's
point
this
I'm making.
I want to get to the unfair trade then.
No, what I'm saying is, all I was saying is that trade can be fair,
Oh,
or,
no, but in this
or
extent-
it can be
but
exploitative.
why do you mention it now?
I'm saying
where
that.
was it unfair?
I'm saying that in terms of trade, for example, Sunni Ali Burr, yeah. What's it called?
Burr means great.
Right, yeah. One of the reasons why people say that he was kind of nominally Muslim is because he understood his political, social, and economic situation at the time, so that they consider his Islam to be more a reflection of political expediency rather than real religious devotion. In the sense of the fact that he knew that being Muslim gave him standing within the economic situation that he was in. So I'm saying that within that context, being Muslim created an economic standing that you would not have otherwise had unless you converted to the religion.
And literacy.
Right?
So now you can read all lovely books and things and you can write down your history.
But
you don't have to rely on some
griot
griot making up stuff as he goes along. You know what I'm saying?
But when you say that, but when you
lovely
say
big robes,
but when you say that,
some babariga,
but when you
some
say that,
grambubu, some
but
you have it got.
when you say that though, you also have to concede, that the key griots at the time were those that were facilitating this whole process.
Griots to be a double-edged sword.
Yeah, I'm saying.
But the best of times, griots are gaulo. You say gaulo in Pular, gaulo. For griot.
Or Jali.
Yeah, no, Jali is Mandinka.
Yeah, no.
Jali, Gaulo in Pular, in his language.
Yeah?
To me, they're a double. Once a man is employed by a king, he say what the king want to hear.
But the king.
So if the king was a pagan,
but
if the king was a traditional worshipper, or the king was a Muslim, the criteria here is that the court poet is going to say whatever that king wants to hear. So forget about
that. That depends, Uncle. We go to that. But it's a separate argument.
You're going to tell me the griots in Mali were praising Islam, but the ones in ancient Ghana.
No. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm just giving credence to the fact that the griot tradition is also the griot can also advocate on behalf of the people against the royalty. That happens too.
Yes.
Yeah. You can have praise songs
inside of the court.
If you could, maybe so. But the point is that griots are politicians as well. So if the man is not advocating,
they know how to speak. They know how to speak.
Right.
Some of them were even comedians. They do it as a joke.
This
like
is the
how
point.
we do calypso in Trinidad.
This is, right.
You do it by singing it as a joke.
This is the point, right? So I'm just putting that context on it.
Yeah, I understand that.
But when I talk about the hypervalorization and the systematic denigration,
it's a false parallel.
But it cannot be a false parallel.
No, I'll tell you
because
why.
the fact of the gun.
That's a major game changer.
It is. But if we're talking about cultural denigration, one need not have a gun to perform that.
That continues culture shock. If I come to you and gradually by degrees, you assimilate, there is not a culture shock. It's like you beginning to lift weights. I'm sure you do training. You're beginning to lift weights, and they're gonna give you 100 kg to bench press at once. You're gonna bust your chest, your shoulder's gonna go. I'm an old trainer, I know this. However, you start gradually and your muscles build up to it, you tune in. And that's the difference with Islam. Islam came at such a pace. Put it this way, it came at a third world pace. It came at a third world. It came at a pace where it managed to assimilate among the people. Some didn't like it, some liked it.
Most didn't.
Many of them do. Wallahi,
Most didn't.
I swear to you, my dear brother, with the best. If most didn't like it, it would not have taken. You know why most didn't like Christianity? Well, let me land. You know why most didn't like Christianity, and it took force, guns, cannon, sheer force.
All right.
With Islam.
Let's
Islam,
tell you this.
let me
Yeah,
tell
go,
you,
go,
I'm
go.
a Muslim.
Go.
Islam didn't, you're not going to believe the
Yeah, go.
Islam did not come in such a manner
Yes.
as to constitute a culture shock. Take his part of the world, where his people had a basically jihad crusade thing going on with Ethiopia. The Ethiopians were Orthodox Christian, or Tewahedo as they call themselves, and the Muslims were there. Now as the Christians moved down the mountain massive from Aksum, as they moved further south, they came into conflict with the Adal Sultanate. They came into conflict with Muslims, right? Now, I'm reading the Christian account right now, and of course the Ethiopian Christians make it appear, these dogs and vipers of Satan keep biting me, King Amdasion, talking about being constantly attacked by Muslims. What he is not saying is that he was an imperialist force pushing south, right, cutting across their trading area, Adal Sultanate with Shoa, the Shoa people inside Ethiopia. He was beginning by pushing south. He was cutting into their trade routes and disrupting it, and they fought him. And it turned, of course, if these are Christians and these are Muslims, it's going to turn into a crusade jihad. And that's what happened. Now, because the Ethiopians were, I'm coming back to my point, literate, the Ethiopians had writing. They could put that down in Ge'ez or Amarinya or Tigrinya and say, look at what these dogs of Satan, these vipers, these Muslims are doing. And of course, a guy like James Bruce, the first, that's how they write it.
I know, you know what I mean? If I was you, I'll take it first to it. I'm not
Now they know what I'm talking about. No, show your face. Look, this we talking about him. Now,
What's going on?
Now check it out.
Where are you to uncle? Where are you to uncle?
You know what I get how I was like. Now check it out. James Bruce, the first scholar, the first European scholar to go through, well, they were Portuguese before, but the first one that the British rate. James Bruce, when he went, he immediately took their side because he was welcomed by the Ethiopian court. And they gave him all the chronicles to read. You give the man his props. He learned the language. He learned Arabic. James Bruce. He learned and all that. And the man reading the text in the original. However, what he did, and he's a Christian, he presented it as if they were right and Muslims were bad. The usual kind of narrative. Now, if they were traditional African worshippers, the Ethiopians.
They both wrote against the tradition in Ethiopia.
I know, exactly. No, but if they were, you'd be saying to me, look, we have writings to show what the Muslims did. You'd be saying that. But they could.
No, I don't have to do that. Because for me, all right, let me say this, Uncle, As you
what
would
I'm
know,
what I'm trying to show is, it is this jihad, don't forget me, don't bring it for the camera, man. What are you going to do that? You're going to do that to a brother.
Hide the goods,
You're going to do a brother like that.
Man. We don't want evidence.
You're going to do a brother like that.
Hide the goods, man. Hide the goods.
Don't put that in front of the camera. No, hold it, keep it. Now, what I'm saying is, that fight is between matched armies. People like him, let's pretend he's matched. It's a match fight. The crusade, the jihad in Ethiopia and Horn of Africa is a battle of equals. That I understand. But when you have Europeans coming with cannon, guns, and they're doing it they're being financed by a kingdom abroad, right? They're being financed, the King of Portugal or Queen Elizabeth I. That's an entirely different kettle of fish. My young brother,
but I wouldn't deny, if we're talking strictly on the level of military battle, that you'd be correct. I wouldn't deny that. I would argue that
the Ethiopians had writing.